Shabbat Shalom, everybody. That was a wonderful message by our Rabbi, and there were so many things to be learned in this message. Did any of you get something that you'd like to share from what he had to say? Don't all speak at once.
Yeah. Okay.
What?
I would like to say first. I came late. I'm sorry. I had to do other things before, but from the point I heard the message, something that is happening to me right now is to learn about control emotions. Okay, because he mentioned that it's important to do not lose the mind, um, and how these emotions connect people. Okay, and sometimes these connections are cut because something happened, and we can decide if we're gonna lose the mind or not. um, in my case, honestly, I believe that sometimes this is happening to me because sometimes I believe that it is hard to to not lose the mind when you have people around you that sometimes do not have your same values, and they don't speak the same language, I can say, as well, and they don't understand your behavior. And something that I really loved, that the problem also is that people is losing the conceptions of what is right and what is wrong, and sometimes that this makes you to doubt if what you're doing is right or not.
Yes.
Okay, because you say, if majority of people do not believe in the way I believe, am I wrong? Sometimes came this thinkings in your mind, in your head, uh, and this is the importance about not to lose the 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 the, the mind by your feelings. And this is something that Moshe had this problem in this portion,
Right.
because um, God told to him, Moshe, go and talk. First, gather people, and then go with Aaron and you, and both of you, Moshe and Aaron, will talk to the rock, and then the rock, bless you, and then the rock will start to sprout water.
Right.
But um, Moshe, first, something that we discovered in this tertulia this Thursday was that he came from the loss of Miriam first, and probably because sometimes it's very hard for a leader, especially, and for a man, to to deal with the emotion of losing. Sometimes we believe we are strong enough to not cry for someone who is leaving. Okay, and this is something negative. And Moshe doesn't say the Torah he cried for his sister.
Right.
So he was charging something inside.
Right.
And then comes the people of Israel and start to say to Moshe, hey, we don't have water. You both took us out from Egypt to this place. So his frustration plus the people was crying is something that makes explode.
Right.
And and then we read after that Moshe first. he committed something that the Eternal didn't say to him. First, he called them rebels.
Right.
And it's interesting that this word rebel, I can remember right now how to say that in Hebrew, but it's the same words of Miriam. So, so
When?
you can read Miriam when he said rebels, you are rebels. Hey, come rebels to see the miracle. Okay, and
No, but
then
when was it the same as when Miriam said? When did Miriam say?
the word no the word rebel in Hebrew are the same letters of Miriam.
Oh, interesting. Wow. I'm gonna look.
And it's only once in the Torah use this word rebel.
Hmm.
So it's really interesting. And then also he he hits the water, and what does disobedience. But the problem is that he attributes himself the miracle,
Right.
because he said, um, shall we give shall we give you the water? And this word we is something that is not Lord, is not God, is me. And also there is another commentary that says that the problem is that people started to believe that the road had the power, okay, as many people believes today, that there was something given by the aliens to Moshe, and super machine, and this produces the miracles when it was really the Lord. That's why he said, talk to the stone and to a rock, and this would start to sprout. So, but the problem is that Moshe didn't have any problem to understand the direction of God. The problem is that he didn't deal with his own emotions. And when you are not, the problem is that sometimes your emotions blinds you.
Right.
And so, and this is also what happened to Jephthah, right?
Right.
Because he talked by emotion.
Right.
When he said, hey, God, he was under a pressure and distress. And he said, okay, Lord, I'm gonna give this, and I'm gonna offer the first person, or the first who gets out from my house, I'm gonna give you. So he lost the family.
Wow.
And why? Because he took decisions when he was affected by emotions.
Amazing.
And so this is so really important today, to all of us, to regulate our emotions,
Right.
and do not take decisions when you are so happy, when you are so under stress, when you
Right.
are so sad. It's better to say, hey, let me think. I'm gonna give you
Right.
the answer,
Right.
okay?
Right.
Because the problem is that sometimes you with your lips, as Michelet says, okay, your tongue will play against you, because you are locking yourself for what you're saying.
Right.
Uh, so this is very important. And honestly, it's something that is hard for me, especially to deal today, because sometimes there are many things, an example in my family, that that start to you know when you talk something and you say to them, hey, this is something that I don't like, for example, and people efforts themselves to do the things that you say before, hey, don't do that, for example, something that bothers me. The problem is that when these things happens, your emotion start to control yourself, And so I was wondering when I was hearing the message of the rabbi, God, why you send me these trials? I would say, when I asked you, hey, come on, Lord, give me peace, bring me peace. Uh, and people start to do what is the opposite what I require to you. So and so at the moment I was hearing the message, it came to my mind is to form your character. It needs to form your emotions.
Right.
So God is not giving me peace; He's giving me troubles because He needs that I keep quiet when my emotions are bombarded from the outside. Okay, and by feelings that are against from what I request to God. And this is basically what I love from the message of Rabbi as
Yeah.
well. And also, uh, and this connects also with the family, right? Because he said, okay, when something is cut, then your relationships are lost, and you need the relationships to make you feel alive. So it's not by cutting relations, is something different. It's about you. The problem is you. The problem is obviously, as he said, if you see the danger and you see, oh, this is not danger because majority says it's not dangerous, it's not right. Okay, and that's why God give us the enough mind to say this is danger. I have to run away. So, but honestly, I was thinking about that, and that's what I wanted to share.
Yeah. Beautiful. I remember Rabbi told us about a painting. I don't know if it was done by Van Gogh, but it was a picture of a bird in a tree. And there was a hurricane, like a strong, strong wind. And the bird was just sitting on a branch and very calm in the midst of the storm. And it's like he's going to keep giving us storms in our lives until we learn that we have to rely on him no matter what the situation is around us. And the storms won't go away because the storms of life today especially are getting worse and worse. There's so many things that just are like attacking us almost every single day. There's something else, especially in the high tech world that we're living in. This week I was having so many problems with my internet, and I know that I needed to be able to have this Zoom. And I was even on the phone with them this morning. Somebody came to my house yesterday from the internet company, and he didn't give me the right information. And then I call someone else and they give me different information. And I just say, you know what? No matter what, I have to learn how to control, I have to stay calm. And that nothing it can get me out of that. But it's so difficult. But that's why the storms come, to test us, to keep trying us, so that we do. And I love the rabbi's explanation about the red heifer, because nobody really understands. It's a chok, and it's a female cow. Most of them were male. I don't know. This Mauricio, what did the rabbi say about the reason that it was a female? Do you remember?
Because it's the mother of the golden calf.
Ah, the mother of the golden calf. Interesting.
Yes. So it was measure by measure. And why
Ah,
is red? Because the gold, when you melt the gold, becomes in a red
oh my
color.
goodness, the red fire. Wow, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I remember the rabbi when they say the rabbis are a big imagination.
Yes, but that one's a good one. Sometimes they
Yeah,
have
that
good
makes
ideas.
sense. It's like God is the beginning of, God is the God of beginning again. So we get a chance with another calf, the mother of the golden calf. It's a chance
Yeah.
again. But I also like, you know, when you're so filled with your own emotions, um, even when that's like whatever, anxiety, even those emotions. And I know me, I say, where is God? Why is God so far? I'm feeling so terrible. Why is God so far? But it's not really, it's when you're so overcome by your own self that you have to almost get better to get really better. But I mean, it sounds like a contradiction, but when you're in the middle of absolute misery, you have to try and be still and stop trying to get better by yourself. Just be quiet and God will help you. But we're so distorted by our emotions.
It reminds me of when my first daughter was a baby and I was giving her a bottle of milk. She was in my arms. I had the bottle right to her lips, and she was screaming and crying for the milk that she didn't even realize that it was the nipple was right there at her mouth. The bottle was there, but because of her hunger and her frustration, she could not grasp the nipple. And it's just like God. He's right there. But because of our inner turmoil, we cannot see him. We can't, and we have to just stop. And like you have to say, like your brother Philip is saying, God is a God of beginning again. He's right here. He's with me. And he's with me in all those things. But it's until we get that realization, hey, wait, we got to stop. He's here. It's a process. And I like when he said that we're that the red heifer has to do with when we have something that's so heavy within us that we feel not fit to approach God, that just the way the ashes of the red heifer made us clean, if we go to someone and talk about what's going on so we can release some of our heaviness so that they can take it on. So we're knowing that we're not alone. That's the beauty of being in community. Know that we're not alone. You know, the time that I was able to spend this year with Miriam, this summer, we go out a lot, almost every day. And we keep reminding ourselves how Miriam was last summer when she couldn't even stand straight, when she couldn't, it was a totally different time. And like now she's gotten through the worst because of being in the community. She didn't go through it alone. And that's so important, not to go through the things that we're going through alone. I don't know if you can explain a little bit of that to Sarai and Priscilla, are very faithful and being here, even if they don't understand a word. Mauricio, maybe you could explain a little bit of that to them.
Ok, hola Saraí, ¿cómo estás? Shabbat Shalom, ¿qué tal? Buenos días, doña Priscila. Lo que estaba diciendo Peggy era acerca de lo que era la vaca roja al inicio. Y pues básicamente es como a través de la comunidad, vamos a llamarlo así, es importante lograr como la santificación. ¿Por qué? Porque con la vaca roja decía que después de eso se tenía que asperger, o asperjar, creo que se diría, las cenizas de esta vaca a la comunidad, ¿no? Y con eso pues esta comunidad quedaba limpia. Pero esa es la importancia de la comunidad, y ella daba gracias a Dios. Por ejemplo, el caso de Miriam, que el año pasado estaba bastante delicada, que inclusive no se podía ni siquiera parar, y ahora ve la importancia de la comunidad como ella, por ejemplo, se ha restablecido. Aparte de eso también estuvimos hablando un poco acerca de la importancia pues, del manejo de las emociones, ¿verdad? Porque no hay que tomar decisiones ni cuando uno está muy, muy estresado, ni muy alegre, ni muy triste, ni muy enojado, porque eso puede jugar en contra nuestra, ¿no? Es más o menos lo que hablábamos el día jueves. Y pues básicamente eso es así muy a resumen lo que hemos estado hablando.
Muchas gracias, Peggy. Muchas gracias, Mauricio.
Gracias, Mauricio.
Es cierto. Es, es una gran verdad que la importancia de que estemos en la congregación, en apoyarnos en oración unos a otros. Esos consejos que les dio a su pueblo en ese tiempo, para nosotros es oro que nos ayuda a encauzarnos para bien.
Okay, she said thanks. And the how do you say that? The consults is a word consejo. Is when you give something to other person to follow.
Like
It's
counseling?
like counseling, yes. The counseling is gold for us because and when we pray in the congregation, one each other is so important, and that's why it's important to be into a congregation because we support each other.
Right. And I like the thing this week in the portion about the the serpent that's put up on a pole. You know, the snakes came to bite the people, and many died because of their disobedience again. It's amazing how they were so close to God. He walked with them in the day with a fire by night and a cloud by day. They heard his voice, they saw him, and it's so much more than what we have today. And yet you see how they never trusted. It was too difficult for them to trust him. And that's the process of learning to trust him. But one of the things we tend to do is put people up on a pedestal and we make them into little gods. And, you know, this serpent was put up on a pole, and the people who would look up would be healed. And it had nothing to do with the serpent on the pole. It was the same idea as when we had to put the blood on the doorpost of the house. Those who obeyed would be saved. The ones who obeyed and looked up would be saved, would be healed. It's all about looking up to him and trusting in him. And that's the process that we are going through. That's why he allows us to go through these severe testings so that we learn to trust him. Because things are not going to get easier no matter what the world says. We are going through hard times, and we need to be a light. No matter what goes on around us, we need to reflect that light to our families, to our friends, so that they will want to know who is our God. Why we have to reflect his kavod. It's not our kavod, it's his glory, which was why Moses was not given the ability to go into the promised land. And I think back at the times when I go, wow, look what I did. I was so good. It's not my kavod, it's his kavod. And these are lessons, constant lessons that we learn each and every day. And that's why it's good to communicate with each other, to talk to each other, to help each other. That's the value of community. So,
and also I believe that, you know, the problem when you are killed, your emotions are more fragile.
yes,
Okay. But when you decide to grow, your emotions start to stabilize.
right.
Okay? And when you get older, then the capability to think is growing, and you take decisions by the intellect and not by the emotions.
Exactly.
The problem is that Israel was a kid of 40 years old. Okay. and these emotions provoke, they talk against God, against the leadership, and some, it's not the only one, I think, but some of the lashon hara comes from the wrong uh, driving of the emotions. Okay, you don't control them; they control you.
Right.
And when you are frustrating and you are so upset with something that you cannot handle,
Right.
then you have the problems to start to talk. Okay, because it's a mechanism of um, of defense, I would say, that plays against you sometimes, and you start to bother others and do not take your responsibility because you are like a kid.
Right.
Okay, in this case, um, of the serpent, one of the things that I loved that we saw this Thursday is first, when the presence of God is there, you don't see all the dangers around you. You don't perceive the problems, the how God protects you, because His presence is before you, is covering you. But when the presence of God, because of Lashon Hara, is, will say, leaving you, so you are not longer protected, you will see all the dangers.
Right.
And in this case, the desert is a place full of snakes. Okay, so and it's interesting how the scripture says that even the shoes do not
Wear off.
wear off.
Right.
Yes, in these 40 years.
Right.
So they according to rabbis, they say they do not touch the the soil.
The hot
Okay,
sand.
yeah, the hot sand, nothing of that, because they were covered by the presence of God.
Hmm.
Okay, so then they committed lashon hara, the presence of God leaves them, and
Wow.
they were aware, oh, there are snakes, and they start to be bite by the snakes.
Right.
Okay, and this is something that happens to all of us,
Right.
because sometimes we say, oh, there are no miracles against me, around me, and there is nothing, but you never know from what God is protecting you every moment of your life.
Exactly.
Okay, you only see when, oh, something really big happens to me right now, and no, but day by day, we are not really aware about the protection of God. For example, yesterday I was in a red light because I was going to pick them the kids to the school. Okay,
Right.
and then the the red light turns in in green.
Green.
I was in my right side of the street, and then at the very same moment, I was talking with Evelyn by phone, and then a car is the car. I don't know what happened, but the man did not brake the car
Oh.
in the other line in my at my right. Okay, there was a car waiting to cross to the right. Okay, but then it came another car and hits the car in the back, and he just go over the not the street, in the part where pedestrians goes,
Oh.
and hits uh, electricity
Pull.
yeah, pull, yes. So it was something like but in front of me. Okay,
Wow.
so and then I realized, oh, something to say. That wasn't a snake, okay, but God was protecting me.
Right.
And so many snakes are around you, and you don't see them because God protects you.
Wow.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this is
Mauricio,
yes.
¿puedes traducirle un poquito de esa experiencia a Saraí?
Sí, con gusto. Lo que sucedió es que yo estaba en
Por
una
favor.
esquina, sí, con gusto. Estaba en una esquina, yo estaba del lado derecho, estaba medio verde el semáforo. Había del otro lado de la cuadra, había un carro que estaba en una esquina exactamente, estaba esperando cruzar a la derecha, pero atrás de él vino un carro al momento que iba pasando y le pegó directamente al carro, lo movió un poco hacia adelante y él se subió a la acera y se fue a estrellar con un poste. O sea, y eso es como decir, hey, ahí había una serpiente, ¿no? De las que nosotros normalmente no vemos, que están alrededor de nosotros, pero que la protección de Dios nos cubre y no sabemos exactamente cuántas serpientes hemos tenido alrededor de nosotros día a día
Las vemos.
y no las vemos exactamente. Pero el hecho que no las vemos no quiere decir que no existan.
Sí.
¿Ya? Entonces, esa es la importancia de tener tanto agradecimiento y de saber que Dios nos protege. ¿Ok? Y esa es la experiencia, ¿no? Que estaba comentando.
Wow.
¿Ok?
I just want, oh, sorry.
Go
Yes.
ahead. Go ahead,
Go
Maria.
ahead.
I really liked what you just said, Mauricio, because often I've thought, we compare ourselves. We say, look at that, those times, at the time of Moses, they saw this, the miracles were right there. But God was preparing a people. So, and we say, well, can you imagine if they didn't understand? Why? But it's the same. It really is the same now. And I often think that how come, I don't always feel God's presence, whatever, but they often didn't either.
No.
They needed that to teach because they're called as a nation to go to the world, to the rest of the world. But we don't have to have that anymore because God is with us. Well, He's always been with us all the time. But I think about that all the time and I say, what's going on? But God's presence is always around and He's doing miracles all the time. And I was thinking what came to my head just in a different way with bad things. Do you remember in the early 70s here in Quebec, our prime minister had to call what's called the War Measures Act. Mailboxes were being blown up, and I lived through that, and I had I never felt anything. And people would say, you're in Quebec, and you had to call the War Measures Act. Boy, Peggy, did you feel anything? Big
No,
deal?
none of us. It's funny because
No,
the
but
prime
sorry.
minister,
Oh.
the prime minister closed the airports, and people in the news all over the world were seeing that the prime minister, who was the father of the prime minister now, said Quebec is at war, the English and the French, but in living in our section, we never felt anything.
I guess that's my point is in that negative way.
Yeah.
Here we were in a place where apparently, the rest of the world thought it was absolute violence. It wasn't like that, but it's the same with the presence of God. If we saw everything that's happened, like I remember things that have happened. I had this problem, I won't go into detail, and I had it for many, many, many years. And one day, and I didn't even know it until I looked back, it just wasn't there. But I didn't notice it happen. It's not like, oh, a miracle. One day I just looked back, I said, it's not there anymore. And so many things happen in our lives, and we just, there are times when I don't know how to explain it, but something I could have been killed. I look back in my life where I could have died, and here I am. But at the time, I didn't think about it, and now I look back and I say that was very dangerous what I did. So I'm saying it's not really. I said, can you imagine? Sometimes, Peggy, you say, and I don't say this to put you down. I understand what you're saying. You say, could you imagine the people with Moses, all the miracles they saw, wow, and how could they not, some of them not believe? And I always felt, but I didn't even have the words. I said, but it's the same thing now. And how many people don't believe, but I just find that amazing. We just, in the midst of things, sometimes we don't see, we're blinded by our own pain or our own ego or whatever it is.
Exactly. Beautiful. All right. If anybody else has anything else to add, it was a beautiful parasha. I loved also how he said that Moses and Aaron were gathered to his people, which shows so clearly that our lives are eternal. Our ruach lives, his ruach lives within us. Each of us has a piece of God within us, and so we are eternal, and that is absolutely beautiful to know. We're not disconnected from him. We're totally connected every moment. It's like we're plugged in. Our fingers are plugged into the electrical socket. So don't take out the plug. Stay plugged in.
That reminds me, sometimes other religions, I think of what I was taught in some areas of Christianity, that in the Old Testament, you don't see anything that talks about that there is, our spirit lives on after we die.
Yes.
And we'd look, but there is constantly, it's more subtle how it's described. It's not spelled out, but it's there.
It's there, totally there.
It's not, there's life. It's not even there's life after death. Life is a continuous
Exactly.
process.
And we need to choose it. He says, I give you today, choose life. He wants us to choose life, to be joyful, to enjoy everything that he's given us, and to not focus on the snakes, focus on him. It's all
I'm saying, can you imagine how many people are going to be shocked? People like a very strong atheist, this is it, that's all there is.
Yeah.
Say, oh my God.
Exactly. I mean, even Brian is happy. Even Brian is laughing. Hey, Baruch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I wish everybody a Shabbat Shalom. Have a wonderful day. May God be with us. May he bless us and take care of us, shine his grace upon us, and give us his Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Love you so
Bendiciones para
much,
todos.
everyone.
Bendiciones.
Everyone. Bye bye.
Love
A
you.
todos.